Peace, everybody. It's your man, Uncle D, coming to you once again, sitting here in session in therapy. In therapy. Okay, so if this is your first time watching me, you're always going to come in the middle, catch me in the middle of a conversation. I got a microphone. We'll pause it. So you're always going to catch me in the middle of a conversation. That's how we kind of arrive at this point. So I know the music in the background, I hope it isn't too loud, so I had to get my lapel mic. But when people complain about things like seeing too many LGBTQ plus people and the visibility now that we have in mainstream media, what we oftentimes forget is that, gay kids only come from straight parents, or some reasonable facsimile thereof, a straight interaction. They don't have to be orientated straight, but a straight interaction, a heterosexual union of some sort. That's how most gay people get here. So if you come from a straight union and there are straight people all around you, how do you learn what it is to be in a gay relationship? How do you learn how to approach somebody? How do you learn how to interact with other people in a LGBTQ plus community? You don't, unless you see it in the media. That's how many of us learned what a lot of things were when it came to dating, courting. We saw it on TV. We saw what love was from a variety of perspectives, heterosexually anyway, in mainstream media. We didn't come to the understanding that you have in the vacuum. It was provided for you, as we were talking about before. There are layers of programming that you really don't understand. Everything is programming. You have to pick which programs it is that you want prevalent in your life, how they're going to manifest, how they're going to come through, and which ones are going to work for you. Now, the other thing that we were talking about before was, relation? It was about, please understand that my perspective is always from a natural perspective. It's always from a natural perspective. And when I say that, what I mean is, yes, man, meaning human beings, we do have the ability to make decisions and act outside of what may feel instinctual. That is what makes us higher beings, or higher whatever, the highest animals here. But we still have an animal nature. We still have an animal instinct in us. We don't, and you can't negate that. It's there. I don't know why it's there, but it is there. A friend of mine was telling me about a man that she met, and she said she wanted to be his friend. I said, he wants to fuck you. And she's like, no, yeah, absolutely. That's the only reason that he said hi to you. Is the only reason that he approached you in the first place. If the man is heterosexual and he came up and said something to you, it's because he would love to have sex with you. He's envisioning it. He thinks it would be a wonderful experience. Are there add-ons? Meaning, might he want to be in a relationship? It's a possibility. Could be. But at the end of the day, if you just offered him sex and said that there were no strings attached, he might fuck you once and leave. That might be the end of it. That's who we are instinctually. It sounds fucked up, but it is what it is. I'm not here to coddle you with what we as a society have come to understand should be morals and principles and things of that nature. I'm not here to provide that for you, because each society you live in is going to have a different perspective on what the hell that is anyway. So my thing is, the one thing that unites us is what is common among us. It is your animal nature, it's your animal instinct. It is what drives you instinctually. It is what you're born with. Men are different from women. I would like you all to understand that. We're not going to come to the same understanding about things all the time. We're not. And I'm not sure how we get past the constructed morals of society. They have value, some of them, but more so they are just used as control devices, and we should really take a look at that. What I mean by that is, and I've said this before, when it comes to relationships, the way that we structure relationships now isn't based in what we think it is. We think that it is love. We think that it is love. It is not love. That is not why people get married. Well, people get married because they love each other, but that is not what marriage was created for. Marriage was created as a contract to buy lands and things of that, to create power. Women were property. Listen to what the fuck it is that I'm saying. Women were property. The reason women were exchanged was because women could have children, women could have sons, which would then inherit whatever property or land or power it was that the two entities that married created. The women was only there to provide children. You were the property of the man. That's why you went from your father's last name to your husband's last name. Because you were property. Just like slaves, you were property, which is why you all didn't have the right to vote. You didn't have the right to buy land. All these things that you all seem to forget, particularly women without color. Particularly women without color. Forget that there was a time when you all had the basic rights of slaves, just like the ones that were brought from Africa. It's the same people with the same ideas doing the same thing. Please understand that. And when I say it's the white male, the idea of the white male, it's the idea of the white male. Not an individual white male or a group of them specifically, but that idea. It's the same idea that enslaved black people from African nations and kept women as property to exchange so that men would have sons. It's the same idea. So when women without color don't support initiatives that help people of color, it's really weird. Because you all were slaves as well. You just lived a little bit better. People like to show you off. You were arm candy. Particularly with men who had property and status and prestige or political power. You were just property. So when you vote outside of your interests, this is what I'm talking about. The ideas that they have are the same ideas that restrict your bodies. The ideas that they have are the same ones that will enslave a nation once again. We're not paying attention. I don't know why it is we refuse to acknowledge what is directly in front of our face. It is very evident. It is very evident that it is the idea of white men that perpetuates most of the ills of our society. It's very evident. If you look throughout history, all it takes is anybody to look throughout history, and you'll see that the people who commit the same type of atrocities all look the same. They all look the same. They all come from the same places with the same ideas. And that is what we have to fight. And the fight isn't just with people of color. The fight has to do with women too. Which is why we have to get the water out of the boat. If you watch me at all, you know what it is I'm talking about. You have to get the water. It's not the water in the boat that sinks, the water outside that sinks the boat. It's the water in the boat that makes it sink. So it is women and women of color, women of color who might support that idea, women without color who support the ideas of men without color. Ideas that don't further the way that we live peacefully in our society. Ideas that, okay, let's get into it. So, things that we were saying, why we don't accept things that are right in front of our face. We live in a nation where if you plant food from another country in your yard, you can get fined and go to jail. If you collect rainwater so that you don't have to pay a water bill, you can be fined and go to jail. We live in a country that does everything the opposite, and we don't seem to understand that that is something, that's the atrocity. That is I don't even know what to call it, the bait and switch. That is the smoke and mirrors. That is the thing that they use each and every time. They will tell us up is down. And they'll tell it to you over and 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 over until you think that up is down. We believe that South America and Africa are almost the same size. If you look on any map, Africa just looks a little bit bigger than South America. Africa's almost twice the size. You could fit almost every other pieces of, you could fit America, Canada, South America. You can fit all of that on the continent of Africa. If you what is that? Greenland? No, yeah, Greenland. If you look at that, that looks like a huge island when you look at it. It's not as big as what you think it is on the map. Everything that we look at is obfuscated. You have to do research in order to find out what the truth is. You have to do that specifically with you, because they're going to tell you stuff that is only in their interest, and it is in the interest of keeping you confused and keeping you doing the same things that have been done generation after generation after generation. It is compliance training. All the time. While we fight one another, they take more of what we should have and have us fighting for crumbs. We fight over things that don't even belong to us. You can go into any urban inner city area and you have people who think that this block is theirs. You think that this block is theirs. You have people who fight over color. I'm talking about like the color of your shirt color, not the color of your, we haven't even gotten to the skin color. You're fighting over what type of rag I have on my head. We have to begin to see that it's not with, our beef is not ever with each other. It hasn't been. We have to begin to shed things that look like, not the things that look like, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is we have to begin to do our research so that we know that the information that we have is accurate. I can't say it any plainer than that. Most of us do not have accurate information about most of the things that we say. A friend of mine posted, I put a post on Facebook, and Facebook said something to the effect of, people need to acquire more knowledge about themselves. They need to do more research. And a friend of mine commented and said, that's true, but a lot of people don't know what to do with the knowledge once they get it. And my comment to her was, that's because many of us stop studying. Many of us get to a certain point and think that we know, we have enough answers. We don't continue to study, and my problem with that is that what you think you know today is going to change tomorrow. If you don't believe me, check the stock market. What something is today isn't what it's going to be tomorrow. And you have to be ahead of it and have accurate enough information to navigate. Yeah. I don't know how else to say that, because nobody is going to give it to you verbatim and tell you what the key is to life, what the path is for you. That's something that you have to find out. But the first thing that you need to do is get rid of the information that you have already ingested that doesn't belong to you, that you carry around in your head all day. This is something that I know a lot of people find rude. I don't like to talk to people unless I know what it is we're talking about. And oftentimes, once I've sat and listened to someone, I'll ask them, particularly if I'm confused, what was the purpose in you telling me that? Yeah, I had to leave the silence there for a moment, because oftentimes we are just talking. We expend energy in ways that leave us without the energy to do the things that we need to do, because we're always leaking it. And that is one of the best ways to make sure that people are compliant, is once they're giving away their energy in ways that have nothing to do with furthering what it is they need in life. If you're always talking about Puffy and Jay-Z and Beyonce, what they're doing, how Jaguar Wright knows about it, the information, the energy rather, that goes along with explaining that information could be better spent doing something to further you. The energy that you take investing in that endeavor. Now, all of us have guilty pleasure, and I'm not going to admonish anybody for that. However, there's a delicate balance that must be made. Just like everything in life, it comes down to balance. How much are you really giving to you, as opposed to expending your energy? There's a song, and there's some people that I listen to specifically because there are things that they say that in the course of what they're saying, it means more. It's like a double entendre type of situation. So I lost my train of thought. Well, there's a Jay-Z song, and I forget what the lyric is that he was saying. Hold on. Yeah, I forget the song, but there's a verse where he says, "Spilling your feelings in the air, monster." With Kanye West, Nicki Minaj, and Jay-Z. Where there's this part where he's talking about all the guys that he brought up in rap. And now they just out here spilling their feelings in the air. And I always wondered, what does that mean? What is spilling your feelings in the air? Right, it's one of those things that just stuck in my head because it was something I had never heard. It was a phrase I had never put together, and I couldn't understand what it was. And now I think if I'm not off, I understand what spilling your feelings in the air is. When you take all of your life force and you give it to somebody else by virtue of talking about things that don't have anything to do with you. With celebrities, none of us, the celebrities don't know us. No matter how much we may feel close to them, they don't know us. So the amount of time that we spend engaged in what it is they are doing in their lives is spilling your feelings in the air. Because if I walk up to Beyonce, she ain't gonna have no idea of who I am. My concern with her shouldn't extend beyond her art, and that is where we fall short. That is where not just fall short, that is where we as a culture, as a present society, have messed up. Because we expect celebrities to be something else. We expect them to act like us. We expect them to do things like us. We expect them to stay in line and obey the law. We expect all of that goofiness, but give them more money than any of them can spend in a lifetime, and expect them to still do a 9-to-5 type activity and spend the evenings with their children the way that we would. It's silly. So, paying attention. If you do nothing else, find an artist that is saying something to you. Pay attention to what it is they're trying to say, because when Beyonce and Jay came out with Boss, if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. One of the most amazing and uplifting things I've heard come out of this generation. There's also what is the documentary I happened to come across, and it had to do with the music today not carrying a message like it used to. Why is that? Who is it that profits from having us talk about each other so derogatorily? What is the purpose of having that type of music that you can barely play it on the airwaves? Why keep doing that? Why keep funding artists who this is their message? There has to be a reason. It's beyond money. What type of control? We don't understand some things that are kind of basic psychology for large companies and governments. Because large companies and governments spend a lot of money trying to figure out what makes you tick. Trying to figure out what your triggers are, what will make you buy something impulsively, what will make you afraid is what it is. Large companies and governments have become experts in psychological warfare, and they know how to make you afraid. What is the purpose in making you afraid? It's twofold. One, like you were saying earlier, you're gonna spend money when you're afraid. That's the first thing, pause. Again, so the purpose of making you afraid is twofold. One, you're gonna spend money when you're afraid. If you are afraid of a snowstorm coming or a hurricane or something like that, you're gonna go out and you're gonna buy supplies. You're gonna go out and you're gonna buy food. You're gonna go out and buy things to make sure that your home is safe. They know how to make you afraid. If they tell you that there is going to be water shortage or something like that. You're getting ready to go out and buy every case of water that you can possibly find. All they have to do is tell you that it's not enough. That's all they have to do, is tell you that it's not enough. Tell you that you're going to be without it. That is how they make you afraid. Every possible situation that they throw at you on the news is making you afraid in some way so that they can manipulate you into doing something in some shape, form, or fashion. And here's the interesting part about that. Me saying that, you could take a quick Google search and it will tell you the ways that the government is allowed to propagandize entertainment and news media in America, not in North Korea. In America, they're allowed to propagandize all media. That's everything that you see electronically. That's everything that you read electronically. That's all the newspapers. That's all the periodicals. That's everything. The government is allowed to curate your experience when you observe media. So making you afraid is a part of the bargain. They make you afraid about the housing crisis. They make you afraid about interest rates. They make you afraid about stock prices. They make you afraid about investments. They make you afraid about Social Security. They make you afraid about everything. And that is how they keep you in fear. That's how they keep you going to church too. They tell you, when they make you think that death is at every corner and you better atone now before the Savior comes back. It's a fear tactic. In fact, you wouldn't go to church if you were not afraid. You don't go to church just because you love Jesus or Muhammad. You don't go to the mosque because of Allah or none of that shit. None of that shit. You go because you're afraid. You are afraid if you don't, something's going to happen to you when you die. Real simple. You afraid. Yeah. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. It is to make you afraid. There's no other reason, because let's be honest, nobody here has met Jesus. I don't give a fuck what story you have where you died and saw the light. Nobody has met Jesus. Don't tell me you felt him. You felt what you wanted to feel. Am I telling you about your experience? No, I'm telling you about human experiences. You can't experience something that you're not for sure even existed. Your pastor telling it to you over and over again your entire life doesn't make it real. You should do some research. Get rid of the fear. One of the best things I did was got rid of the fear that I was going to hell. It will open up your life, I'm telling you. It won't make you go out and kill anybody. You won't want to start raping people. No. None of that. You don't start doing drugs automatically. You don't go knocking old ladies in the head. None of that shit happens when you don't feel like you're going to hell. None of it. You do not become a serial killer. You do not become a psychopath simply because you do not believe in going to hell. For some of you, that's a concept that is beyond anything that you can imagine, I know. I struggled with that years ago. I had the experience where I tried to imagine what it was like if God didn't exist. It's a terrifying feeling to feel like you're not taken care of, because that's what we're taught. We're taught God takes care of us. So if you have that in your head your whole life and you try to imagine life without it, you feel suddenly alone, lost, afraid, in the dark. You feel really, really small. But then you come, well, it depends on what your journey is. After that, I came to a different understanding through some more research. But yeah, trying to imagine life without that is absolutely terrifying. It is. But it is possible. All I ask anyone is that you give another thought a try. That's it. Just give another thought a try. Anything, something outside of what you have been thinking all your life. Because most of us get up and we start thinking about what we have to do during the day. We get up, we think about going to make coffee, we think about getting dressed, you think about doing your hair, putting on your makeup, what clothes you're gonna wear. You think about starting your car, maybe driving to work, taking the kids to school if you have to do anything like that. You think about all those things, but none of those are new thoughts. Most people go all day without thinking a new thought. You think the same thoughts day in and day out about the same things day in and day out for years. Nobody says to you, let's try some new thoughts. That's why I'm here. Let's try some new thoughts. Because the ones that we have, we can either add on to them, get rid of them, or replace them. We don't have to go the rest of our lives with the same thoughts. So I challenge anybody who's watching this video tomorrow, try and get 3 new thoughts. A friend of mine who lives in Florida called me, and she and I lived together for a while in Maryland. And the whole time I was there, I was going to the gym because the complex where we lived had a gym facility there. So I was at the gym every night, 11:30, make my reservation. Hey, would you like to go? Okay. She never came. She said, I'm good. Nope, I'd rather not. All right, fine. Now she's out in Florida, and there isn't much to do in the immediate area because she lives near Disney. It's like, that's all there is to do is Disney. So she called me a few weeks ago and said, I'm joining the Y. Yeah, she needed a new thought. The same thoughts that were serving her when we were living together no longer serve her. You have to do something different if you want your life to change. A lot of us think that our life is going to change by prayer. You can add your own life force into that prayer and make it more likely to happen. That's the thing about prayer. The thing that I dislike about the ideology of what prayer for many people is that it's sort of a thing where you're supposed to say it to whatever God it is you believe in and then do nothing and wait. And that is not the full formula. The full formula is you have action that has to go into that in order to bring it about. Many of us do not like to take responsibility. Thank you. Many of us do not like to take responsibility for ourselves and our actions, which is why our lives do not change. Many of us do not like to take responsibility for our lives and our situations, which is why our lives don't change. Many of us are afraid to take full responsibility of our lives. Because what would that mean? There's a woman on Facebook who asked this question. I saw her TikTok, rather, not Facebook, TikTok. She's a therapist, and she's a neurodivergent therapist. So she asked this question, and I thought it was amazing. I think I wrote it down somewhere. She said, what if you acted as if everything that happened in your life you chose? Now, at first, when she first said it, I said, wait a second, because there are some people who had some really horrible things happen that, you know, probably happened to them when they were young and they had no control over. Like, how do you put that in the context of I chose that? You know what I mean? And what I was through listening to her, she said, I get that part. She said, but think of it this way. The choosing part is you're supposed to choose the lesson that you get out of it. That's what you're supposed to choose. The lesson that's supposed to, you may not ever, well, you may not, particularly when you're a kid, have control over your every situation that you're in. But you can go back and look at it and see what lesson there was to be learned in that situation. You have full control over that. In fact, that is your responsibility. You have to find out what the moment was supposed to teach you. Only you can do that. Let me pause this a second because there was a point that I wanted to make. Hold on. In taking responsibility for yourself, there's also this thought that I would like to add. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier about a situation. And it was an either or situation, like should I do this or, should I do this? Actually, I was talking to two friends today with that exact same with the exact same type of dynamic going on. Should I do this or should I do this? And what I said to both of them was, you already know the answer. You aren't talking to me to get your answer. You know the answer to your questions already. You have to accept responsibility for the choice that you're going to make. I know that for anybody who's seen The Matrix, you remember when she said that. You have to accept responsibility. That's why we're here in this spot now, to understand the choice that you are going to make next. You already know the choice, and I'm never usually helping anybody out. All I'm doing is reflecting back what you giving me. That's all I ever do. I might ask you a question or something in the midst of us having a conversation about whatever it is that we're sharing, but it's not me telling you, well, you should do this or you should do this. This looks like this according to what you just said, and this looks like this. And then they make their decision. They're like, yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Yeah, because I couldn't think for you. This is your situation. But many people, we need that part in our timeline where we understand the cause of our actions. We need that for some reason. What I said to a friend of mine earlier was, you can't make a bad choice. What you have to do is accept whatever choice it is that you make. That's it. There's no such thing as a bad choice, because what's for you is for you. It can't miss you. You might delay it. You can obfuscate it so it doesn't look like what you think it was, but what's for you is for you. It's coming to you. It's going to come to you. All you have to do is move the stuff out the way. And that's what many of us have a problem with. Not just moving the stuff out the way, because that is your, my sister, best way to explain it is to a situation where my sister said, yeah, I have to sit down and mull this over. No, you don't. That's not something you should ever do. Why sit in the energy of indecision? Decide. Make the choice. And whatever you decide to live with that. Be responsible for it. Period. There's nothing. Well, we doing anything else is not giving yourself full autonomy. When you take responsibility for your actions, that's accepting full autonomy. That is freedom. When you come to the part in your life where you can accept full autonomy without having to have a cause or a justification, you're truly free. You know what your desires are. You know exactly what you want. Accept responsibility and know that what's for you is for you. Your blessings can't miss you. And live fully in the moment. One of the worst things we do is sit and try and figure out a future situation. And we're taught to do that. That is a level of programming that is so deep in most of us. We sit and we try and figure out the scenario like we're going to be able to pinpoint the way that it's going to happen. And it never happens the way that we have thought it was. But we don't check our experience and go, you know what? It never happens the way that I think it's going to happen. Maybe I should just let things happen the way they're going to naturally happen. No. We're taught to mull it over. There's nothing to mull over. Trust your you have to trust your decision. You have to trust yourself. One of the things that I was looking at bear with me because I'm talking about things from I was watching something. I saw, maybe it was a meme or a gif or something on social media, and then I saw somebody do it in a movie. What it was I think it was a life coach, some life coach I follow, and they were saying that people in high-ranking positions, they don't spend time mulling over decisions. You have to be able to make a decision like that. And whatever happens, you just have to be responsible for it. So you learn to do that. And then I watched Tyler Perry's movie, The Family That Prays, with Kathy Bates. I love Kathy Bates. And in that, she owns a construction company. She's the owner of a construction company. And they come to her and tell her that they need to raise money for the company because the company has a lot of assets, but it doesn't have a lot of cash on hand. And they need to raise cash because they've just taken on a project that's going to cost them $25 million up front, and they don't have it. So in order to raise the money, she needs to sell her stake in the company. And she's standing out by her pool. It takes her 5 fucking seconds to make this decision. It takes her, and I was amazed. Like, the first time I saw the movie, I thought it was an anathema. That I'm sitting there like, how you make a decision about your livelihood like that? Like, to put it in perspective, her selling her stake in the company made it so that when there was a board meeting, her vote didn't count. That's how much power she was giving away with this decision. It took her less than 5 seconds to make the fucking decision, and that wore me out. I was like, how? And I've seen the movie again because it's one of my favorite movies. I've watched it again and again and again. And as I watch it now and remember what that life coach on social media said about making decisions, if you trust yourself, if you trust the information that you have and the education that you have taken upon yourself, it really shouldn't take that long for you to make decisions. It should not take that long for you to make decisions. That is a sign of not trusting you. Trust yourself. But that takes a minute. There's a whole lot of stuff to learn before you come from a process of being a regular person around here to understanding that none of that stuff is necessary in order to be a human being walking this earth. We have too many additives. I was saying, there's way too many additives to our experience here that keep us down. It keeps us unhappy. It keeps us from moving in any progressive direction. It really does. I can't tell you how much negative information we put in the way of our goals. If there's something that I want to accomplish, and I've been taught to, the first thing I need to, sit down with the pros and cons and see what it is that, what I can get out of it versus what it's going to cost me to do whatever it is. How about just do it? That's not where I come from. I understand that. That is not what many of us who are probably, if you're watching this video, you're probably like me. That's not where you come from. Trusting yourself enough to jump into something because that is what you desire, period. You don't need a whole bunch of justification for it. There's not a whole lot of backstory that you need to add to that. But we don't know ourselves and trust ourselves enough to go, you know what, this decision, I'm just going to make it. It is what it is, and however the chips may fall, I'm going to pick up those chips and we're going to have some chips and dip. It comes over time. If there is anybody that I would suggest if you want to begin to understand more about what that unlocking of being in that mindset is, I would say Dr. Joseph Dispenza. There are several books that he's written. One is You Are the Placebo. I forget the other one. We were just in the bookstore and saw it too. But any of the books by Joe Dispenza, I'm not advocating for him. I'm not a paid sponsor or anything like that. He is just somebody who, through listening to him and reading his work, I've come to understand that what it does is help lift the film off of life. The gritty, obfuscating film that covers us, the layer of bullshit, basically. is what I'm trying to say. There's a thick layer of bullshit around and over us, and once you begin to understand that it doesn't take that much to live this life, it's a much better existence. It really is. I'm trying to think of who else. I don't know if Bashar has any books, but if you can find him online. Now, Bashar is a different type of situation to try and take in, because you have to get over the fact that his eyes are closed and he's channeling an alien. But other than that, the information is okay. I don't know how else to put that, because it took me a minute to get over that. But we live in a world where we have recently found out that there are such things. I mean, when I say we have found out, I mean that on a governmental level, these things have been studied and acknowledged as being in existence, that there are parallel universes, that there are aliens, that once you take your eyes off of something, it could totally fucking disappear. You found out that excuse me, that photons, I think it is, that they only turn into particles when they're being observed. So the world could completely disappear when you leave the room. So in the midst of all that magic, why can't we get up believing that everything is going to work out all the time? Right. Your face was like, what?
I'm smiling. I remember when I was a child.
If you are so inclined, there are several studies that have been done. It's called the double slit, SLIT experiment, where the researchers were shooting I think it's photons. I'm not real adept at this stuff, to name it accurately, but they're shooting these particles through slits, and what they noticed, they were tracking the wave patterns, and what would happen if they did shot them through two slits at the same time, and they were noticing what would happen. And one of the things that they noticed at that time was when they weren't observing it, because they left the camera on. So when they weren't observing it, it turned from a particle back into a wave. Completely disappeared and turned from a particle back into a wave. Now, obviously I'm not the first person to come with this information, but there's, again, like I said, a lot of information about it, and I think it's interesting because what many of us experience in life when we call coincidence and quantum entanglement and things like that, those are the correct terms for things that we experience called the supernatural. There's actually a scientific reason for how ghosts, you might experience something called a ghost. So with all this magic around, there's a word that I learned, and I think I mentioned it in one of my other videos, pronoia, which is the thought that everything is always working out for you all the time, as opposed to its opposite, paranoia, where you think that things are always working against you all the time. So I decided to be pronoid as opposed to paranoid, because we have taught our brains to always think of things happening negatively. We're always taught to, well, I gotta work this out in case something happens. We're always taught to think of things from that standpoint, as opposed to, oh my God, I gotta think of things in case everything will work out. What if everything work out? What am I gonna do if everything works out? Which is usually why shit don't work out for us. Because we're never in an energy of things working out. We're always in an energy of, what if something bad happens? Has it?
It's a poor man's mentality.
Yeah, it's an inhuman mentality. Because the truth of the matter is, if you take away all your negative thoughts and let life happen, it would happen so beautifully. You would be able to, you'd be crying like most of the time. Many of us have experienced that at one time or another, where things just lined up for you in a magical way, and you have no explanation for it. It's what's supposed to happen. That's how life should be lived, but we're giving credit scores. We got credit scores and taxes as opposed to magic and harmony. Yeah, it's weird. So, you know, If there's not, a friend of mine I was speaking to earlier, God bless her heart, she just moved and she's so excited about her new place and everything, and she was telling me that she and her daughter both decided to go back to school. And I said, that's wonderful. And I hope that they take an opportunity, take that opportunity rather, to find more of the things that were hidden from them. It's an excellent opportunity. And the reason I say that is because you don't have to wait to go back to school to begin to re-educate yourself on what life is. As I was talking about, like I said about my friend who responded to my Facebook post earlier, once we stop or think that we've attained enough information, that's usually when the world begins to leave us behind. Because what we know as a society, as a world community, is always changing. We're always coming to a new understanding of something that we've witnessed for thousands of years. So if that is true, then you can be certain that the information that you have today is going to be out of date in the next 10 years. It's going to be irrelevant. It's going to be obsolete. So investing, finding a way to continue your self-education, finding out who and what you are, where you come from, what it is you want to do, is the best investment you will ever make. Many of us aren't taught this, but there are two things I advise people to find out in their lives. Find out what you like, and find out what you are good at. What you like will bring you joy. What you're good at will bring you money. And don't ever, ever let one fall by the wayside. Keep them both in balance. Keep them both in harmony. We aren't taught that. We aren't taught those are the only things you need. We spend 12 years feeding people information that possibly will have nothing to do with the life that they choose to live. As opposed to spending 3 years letting people experience things to find out what it is they love the most. It's a waste of resources and time. It's a way of programming and control. I'm hoping that at some point during my lifetime, education is reformed in a way that makes people more productive. Not just manufacturing productive, but personally productive. I think we go much farther as a society if more people pursue the interests that make them happy. Don't you? Wouldn't you rather wake up and do what you love than do what you have to do? 90% of the people watching this get up every morning doing what they have to do. There may be another, of that 90%, there may be a 30% who somewhat enjoy their job. And the rest of that number are people who get up and just do things that they have to do in order to maintain the life that they've been told that they're supposed to live. Because you can do perfectly well without any of it. Children included. You could still live a wonderful life without any of the additives that you have accrued in your life, children included. A friend of mine came to my house the other day, and she remembered when I had my own home, when I had bought a home. And she looked around where I live now, and she's like, you got rid of everything. Yeah. I got rid of everything that I didn't need. Everything that was just taking up space, I got rid of. Because what was I going to do with it? Why keep things that no longer serve you? That includes information. That includes culture. That includes tradition. Why keep things that no longer serve you? That includes religion. Systems of thought, philosophy. Why keep things that no longer serve you? Relationships, husbands, wives. Why keep things that no longer serve you? That friend that only calls when they want something, never around when you need something. That one. Why keep things around that no longer serve you? Learn to serve yourself and take responsibility for the decisions that you make. If there is a summation to this whole monologue, it is learn to take responsibility. Trust your life. Get to a point where you trust your life. And you won't hear me use the word faith. Trust comes from being built up over your life, over a period of time. Faith is evidence of something that you haven't seen. You have evidence that your life is going to work out if you look back on it. You can trust that. It has gotten you this far. You can trust that things are going to continue to work out well. And they will work out better when you remove your own interference. Yeah. So, again, you have to trust you. There's no one else that you should trust before you. When there's a decision to be made, you are the first person you should go to. And you are the last voice that should have any opinion on anything in your life. Nobody can advise you on you like you. We give away our power so much. I'm not talking about talking to your friends and trying to clear things up because maybe you're thinking about it incorrectly. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about letting other people be the determining factors for the decisions that you make. That's what I'm talking about. And so that I'm clear. If the path that you are on does not lead you to self-trust, pick another path. Because you are going to be the only consistent thing in your entire life. So if you don't trust you, I don't know what to tell you. I'll be real honest. I don't know. If you don't trust you, I don't know what to tell you. I can't imagine a life where I don't trust me. I trust me first and last. And beyond that, I'm going to learn to trust me more. So again, I thank y'all for joining me. Again, please subscribe to the channel. I am curious to read your comments. Always curious to read your comments. And hope that you will like the video. And if you like it enough, feel free to share it. I'm Uncle D, the Brick City Monk. I'll holla.